Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be going in depth into my top 5 Week 11 trade targets for the 2022 fantasy football season. But before we could get into things, I would like to ask that if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you do leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. And if you have any questions about week number 11, ask down below in the comment section, or in our Discord linked in the video description, as well as in the pinned comment. I want to talk about our sponsor of today's video, DraftKings Sportsbook, a little bit later. So without further ado, let's get into my top 5 Week 11 trade targets. We begin with my number 1 player to be trading for prior to week number 11. That is Chris Olave, wide receiver of the New Orleans Saints, going up against the LA Rams at home in New Orleans. On the season, he is currently the wide receiver number 25 in half PPR points per game. The Saints were on bye last week, so we got to go ahead and hop back in the time machine and go back to week number 9 for his stats in a matchup up against the Baltimore Ravens in prime time. In that game, he was the wide receiver 22 in half PPR on the week, having 3 receptions on 5 targets for 40 yards. Now, I am under the belief right now that famous Jameis Winston will be the starting quarterback of this team very soon. I don't see how Dennis Allen and this team can roll out Andy Dalton for much longer. Andy Dalton is the most boring fucking quarterback in the NFL. He does absolutely nothing, and Jameis Winston is extremely exciting. I know Jameis might not be the franchise quarterback of this team, but at least Jameis Winston brings some pizzazz to this offense. He brings some upside to this offense. So I am fully expecting and fully hoping that the team makes the transition from Andy Dalton back to famous Jameis Winston. There have been a lot of things that have went wrong in New Orleans. We've seen Kamara banged up. We've seen Mike Thomas look like prime Michael Thomas and then be done for the season. We've seen some great Jarvis Landry. We've seen Jarvis Landry hurt. We've seen, like I said, Kamara hurt. We've seen Jameis out, Taysom Hill playing quarterback, Andy Dalton playing quarterback. There have been a lot of moving pieces in this offense, but there has also been one stagnant piece who has been incredibly consistent this season, and that is wide receiver Chris Olave. Now, Chris Olave hasn't really had that crazy boom game this season that I think he has inside of him, where he scores 2 touchdowns, gets 125 yards, which again, I truly do believe he has in him. But at the same time, he has still been incredibly consistent game in and game out for a Saints team that has been a bit of a disaster. And honestly, that might not even be, that's just being nice, right? A bit of a disaster. They've been a fucking dumpster fire, and yet Chris Olave has been so good. I fully believe in Chris Olave's upside going forward. And again, he is still incredibly safe. Even on the weeks, he doesn't smash that upside. Next up at number 2, my number 2 player to be trading for this week is Kenneth Walker III, running back of the Seattle Seahawks on bye this week. My favorite players to trade for typically are players that are on bye, because when you go to trade for them, the person who has Kenneth Walker can't play him this week. So they might be in a bad position where, oh shit, week number 11 is a must win for me. And now again, this isn't true in every situation, but now they can't use Kenneth Walker, so they might be able to trade you Kenneth Walker for cheaper than you would have to if they were a team that was already set up to win this week, which again is why I like to attack players that are on bye in trade negotiations. Running back, 15.5 PPR points per game on the season, tied with Uncle Lenny Fournette, which is incredibly shocking because Kenneth Walker was riding the fucking pine for the first couple weeks of the season while Rashad Penny was healthy. Running back, 21 in half PPR last week in Germany up against the Buccaneers, 10 rushes for 17 yards, 6 receptions on 8 targets for 55 yards. One down game from Kenneth Walker does not scare me one bit. It doesn't move the pendulum. I'm not now all of a sudden very nervous to start Kenneth Walker. I genuinely think Kenneth Walker is one of the best running backs all around in the National Football League. He is an excellent in-between the tackles rusher. He's great running outside. He's great catching passes. He does everything that you want in a fantasy football running back. From weeks 5 to week 7, he has scored at least one touchdown in every single game except for last week in week 10. And there were multiple games where this motherfucker scored 2 touchdowns. I fully believe that he is going to bounce back going forward. The Seattle Seahawks offense, I know they looked kind of bad in Germany, but typically these overseas games go crazy. Like, even the teams that look good might end up shitting the bed in these overseas games. So I'm not worried at all. I'm not panicking on Kenneth Walker. And again, since he's on a bye week, it might be even easier to acquire Sir Kenneth Walker III. Next up, we move to Amari Cooper, wide receiver of the Cleveland Browns, going up against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo this week. He is currently the wide receiver number 16 in half PPR points per game on the season, but last week he was the wide receiver 66 in half PPR last week. In week 10, up against the Dolphins in Miami, he had 3 receptions on 3 targets for 32 yards. But if you look deep into the stats, you do a nice fucking swan dive into the stats of Amari Cooper, you will see something crazy. Amari Cooper's home versus away splits are absolutely fucking insane. Cooper at home, wide receiver 10, 4, 11, 24, and 6. Amari Cooper away from home, wide receiver 84, 90, 32, and wide receiver 67. He has yet to finish outside of the top 24 at home, but has yet to eclipse the top 30 away. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4 games inside the top 12 at home. So there's a large discrepancy between at home versus away for Amari Cooper. Now, in the fantasy football playoffs, which we're gearing up for now, it's already week 11, he has 2 home matchups in the playoffs up against the Baltimore Ravens and the New Orleans Saints. And I also strongly believe that the home versus away splits that look incredibly brutal right now will go away with Deshaun Watson under center in 2 weeks up against the Houston Texans. So you'll only have to deal, in my opinion, with this bullshit for 2 more games of the home and away splits. I love what Amari Cooper's upside looks like with a healthy Deshaun Watson, who might be a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League. So I am all in favor of Amari Cooper. But this week up against the Buffalo Bills, based upon current trends in Buffalo, you should not feel very strongly that Cooper's going to smash this week. Before we get on into my number 4 and my number 5 trade targets for week number 11, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over at DraftKings Sportsbook. They've been on your screen this whole entire time. If you're a brand new user to DraftKings Sportsbook, you click on the link in the video description down below or the pinned comment and bet $5 on any sport pregame money line. You receive $200 in free bets if your bet wins on DraftKings Sportsbook. Now, since your bet has to win, I don't think you should bet on an NFL game. Now, obviously, you can do with your money whatever you want. But I think you should go to college football. We saw just last night, if you're watching this on Tuesday, that the Commanders played up against the Eagles. The Commanders were huge favorites, the Eagles were huge favorites, and you want to know who won? The Commanders. So I think you should go to college football, where the favorites are far more likely to win. And you're going to see DraftKings Sportsbook on the screen right now. You're going to navigate to the college football tab. And then you are going to scroll down to find my first best bet for college football for this promo. Ohio State minus 6,000 at Maryland. Bet $5 on that. Win $200 in free bets if Ohio State wins. The second one is Florida State versus Louisiana Lafayette minus 2,400. Bet $5 on that. You receive $200 in free bets if that bet wins. Make sure you guys check this out. The offer is not going to last forever, and make sure you take advantage of it now before it disappears, before it is too late. So make sure you guys do go ahead and check that out. Again, link down below in the video description and in the pinned comment. Now we pivot back to my number 4 trade target of the week, Jeff Wilson Jr., running back of the Miami Dolphins, also on bye this week. Running back 27 on the season and half PPR points per game. Running back 6 in half PPR last week up against the Cleveland Browns. 17 carries for 119 yards and a touchdown. 2 receptions on 5 targets for 24 yards. Since he was traded to the Miami Dolphins in the last 2 games as a Dolphin, he has had 215 all-purpose yards and 2 touchdowns in those 2 games. it appears that Jeff Wilson Jr. is now the RB number 1, the running back 1 in Miami. And some people might be nervous to hold on to Jeff Wilson because, oh man, Raheem Mostert is still there. Sure, Raheem Mostert's going to get touches. I don't think Raheem Mostert is now fucking dust in terms of this Dolphins offense. I think in certain matchups, like their next game out up against the Texans, you could probably start both of them because they're going to be up by so much. They just run the ball a million times down the throat of the Houston Texans, who are dead last against the run. But ultimately, if I had to just have one, I want Jeff Wilson Jr. And I really do think that the fact that Mostert is there is going to make owners scared. They'll be like, oh, sure, he had one great game, but can he do it again? Can he keep doing it? And then they'll look at the schedule. Oh, the Dolphins' schedule gets a little bit harder. And then they'll be scared of him. So they'll trade him to you. So make sure you try to acquire Jeff Wilson right now because, again, he's at his cheapest on the buy. So make sure you trade for him right now. I love Jeff Wilson's upside in Miami. The offensive line is just getting healthier, and it looks incredible. At number 5, we have Justin Herbert, quarterback of the LA Chargers, going up against the Kansas City Chiefs at home in LA in prime time this week. Quarterback 15 on the season, tied with Mr. Discount Double Check, the ayahuasca god, Aaron Rodgers, quarterback 24 last week. It appears that both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen will be good to go soon, and both could even play this week, which to me seems a little bit fugazi, seems a little bit not going to happen. But hey, I'm just talking about a report that I've read. I'm not making things up here. Week 10 against the 49ers. Tough Niners defense. 21 completions on 35 attempts for 196 yards and a touchdown with a interception. 5 rushes for 22 yards. Again, shit hasn't been the best for Justin Herbert the pervert. Things have been incredibly bad, but his upcoming schedule is positive. Versus Kansas City, at Arizona, at Las Vegas, the Raiders. Versus Miami, versus Tennessee, at Indianapolis, the only defense that really scares me, versus LA Rams, and then the Dolphins defense if they actually wake up. But the Dolphins defense typically plays much better at home, and this game is at home for Justin Herbert the pervert and the Chargers. So his schedule is starting to lighten up, and his players are getting more healthy. Now it's clear that I think that rib injury is really fucking with Justin Herbert. He is going to keep getting more healthy as the season goes on. His receivers are going to get more healthy. I think right now is the perfect time to trade for him. Because again, he just shit the bed in prime time. Everyone was watching. It's not like it was buried at 1 o'clock when there's 8 other games going on. And Justin Herbert had a bad game, but I didn't really see it. It is what it is. No, everyone and their fucking mother watched that game. They saw that Justin Herbert the pervert threw a bad interception at the end of the game. So I think right now is the perfect time to go out and acquire Justin Herbert the perverts. Thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. If you did end up enjoying, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, as well as hitting that like button. It would help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. If you have any questions for week number 11, please make sure you ask down below in the comment section or in the Discord linked in the pinned comment in the video description. And make sure you check out DraftKings. Again, bet $5 on any pre-game money line on any sport, and receive $200 in free bets if your bet wins. Against the link in the video description and in the pinned comment. My favorite bets, again, Ohio State at Maryland and Florida State versus Louisiana Lafayette. Thank you guys all for watching again. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great rest of your guys' day. And as always, goodbye.